So, Andy, how long have you been connected with Fitzroy or had an association with Fitzroy?
I've lived in and around Fitzroy, I suppose, for 15 years.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it's like a magnet. Each time I move away, I go, oh, I love this house, but just wish it was in Fitzroy. And then you go, okay, time to move again. Let's look in Fitzroy this time. And then you go, oh, I can go somewhere else, and then end up back here again.
Yeah. And why do you say you end up back in Fitzroy? Is it just because it's what you know? Or?
No, I think it's because it's what I know at all. I think it's just, I don't know, the happiest houses I've lived in, or, it's probably completely coincidence, but I love the people orientation of everything. The fact that I live on a street that 3 o'clock in the morning there is pedestrian traffic going backwards and forwards all the time, and there's a sense of safety in that, and a sense of connectedness. And, I hate it when you go out to the suburbs, the big leafy green suburbs, and you're there at night and there's never anybody walking the street, and these big trees shading the street lights, and I'm just thinking, no wonder everybody drives out there, because you wouldn't feel safe walking, and to me that's just completely wrong.
Yeah. So there's something in the 19th century design of Fitzroy that they got right in a way, because it promotes pedestrian traffic.
Yeah, to me it's about scale. It's scale of things that are people-oriented rather than vehicle-oriented.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And so what other sort of things in Fitzroy do you identify with or like?
Pubs?
Everyone else.
People.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've got a lot of friends that live in and around Fitzroy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fitzroy Pool,
yeah,
and all the community debate and everything that happened there, but I don't think they realised sort of what kind of a tradition it is. In summer, everybody goes down there and everybody meets up there, and just hanging out in hot afternoons down at Fitzroy Pool, and the late opening on summer nights and things like that.
Yeah. So the sort of the thing you like about Fitzroy the most is its sense of community, you'd say?
Yeah.
And that's different to other parts of the city you've lived in? Or
yeah, well, I suppose that's my personal perception. I mean, I've pretty much lived in and around Fitzroy since I left to live on my own, left the parents' home. But I definitely didn't feel a sense of community where I was living before. It was, much more distant, and I suppose I didn't go to local schools and things either. I was always travelling out of where I was to various places. And,
And is there anything that in the time that you spend in Fitzroy, changes that you see bad?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. Yeah, well, I mean, I think there are real divisions in Fitzroy. I mean, you go from around Gertrude Street and the whole welfare end of Fitzroy down towards Alexandra Parade, and then across into North Fitzroy, and it's an entirely different demographic, and down towards the Fitzroy Pool, all the townhouse redevelopment, warehouse, etc., things that have gone into, I suppose some of them were old commercial places, but they're, I don't know, dormitory suburbs almost. Everybody leaves in the morning and goes back at night and drives their car in there, and there's never anybody around during the day. And part of what I like about here is that it feels like a balance between the two. And I suppose to my mind this is right about the complete centre between the Gertrude Street, Alexandra Parade, and to me anyway, thinking about it, between Brunswick Street and Smith Street, it's like in the centre of all of that. I mean, I know that's not strictly Fitzroy's boundaries, but
So you see that some of the new developments could threaten the diversity of Fitzroy, or make it a dull place to live?
I think Brunswick Street's become less for the community and more for visitors to the suburb. And I don't go to Brunswick Street very often.
Did you used to go there a lot?
more. I think it depends where you live in Fitzroy too. I mean, you're going to go to wherever is closest, but yeah, I love Smith Street. I mean, you know, I'd be down at Smith Street every second day at least, I suppose, whereas I'd go to Brunswick Street once a month.
Yeah.
And that's something that's, you know, a block away.
Yeah. So Smith Street just has...
It's got more diversity, more cultural diversity, more, you know, range between, you know, expensive gifts to, you know, $2 shops to, you know, I was a bit sad when the Greek deli there closed down, but then a big Turkish one opened up just across the road, and, you know, I was really happy about that. Yeah, whereas, you know, when the Italian grocery store closed down on Brunswick Street, well, a shoe store went in there, and, you know, there's nothing about the local community and those things. It's around Brunswick Street, it's the local things that are disappearing, and other things, you know, shops and giftware and clothes and more cafes, which, you know, for just the local community, we don't need any more cafes in the area, but a lot of people visit. Purchase our culture.
Yeah, so things like there's no greengrocers or local amenities. So.
Well, there still is. There's still a greengrocer on Brunswick Street, but it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got all the Asian places down on Smith Street, which all have a limited arrangement of vegetables, which are not the best quality, but yeah, at least you've got the selection. The Turkish place has them as well, and of course there's a supermarket there.
Yeah. And so by a dormitory suburb, you mean that people just live here?
Commuters. Yeah. Come home to sleep. And, and I suppose, in that area down towards Fitzroy Pool that I was talking about there, to purchase into the area, into those developments, people are spending a lot of money, and so they're working very long hours to pay off their mortgages, presumably. Or, you know, they've got those jobs that demand that in the first place, and which enables them to buy into those sorts of developments. And so they work their long hours, and then they go out to Brunswick Street to eat dinner probably and go home to sleep. And I don't think that they really relate to their neighbours, and I don't think that they really contribute to the area. I think Royal Gallery going is kind of sad as well. I mean, that's sort of like a passing of an era, but then other things happen, you know, PBS moving into Collingwood is something I feel proud of too. It's like, you know, they've moved out of St Kilda, and there's been this Fitzroy St Kilda kind of nexus, and now it's like, oh no, it's all coming up this way. It's kind of nice because they've realised that St Kilda's gone too far in the commercialism, tourism, and it, to me, and I've never lived in St Kilda, but that's always seemed like such a small creative community, like in terms of numbers of people, really quite tiny. And Fitzroy seemed bigger, but that's an outsider's view, so I may be incredibly ill-informed.
Yeah. So too much commercialism will stifle the creative culture of Fitzroy?
Well, no, it just pushes it out. Because, I mean, if people are wanting to be really creative, generally they're working with the ideas and not working with the money, and if the rents are going up astronomically, then they just can't afford to live in the area, and then they relocate elsewhere, and, you know, the people that just come and live and sleep here move in, and so, it's got to do with cost, I suppose. There's an economic side to everything.
So why do you think people move into the new developments in Fitzroy? Is it after some lifestyle?
Well, it's not just in Fitzroy. It's I can tell you a few demographics if you want. I mean, we're getting to the point where the majority of households are single-person households, one or two people, rather than the traditional family, which is what everybody still think homes are about. You know, the houses in and around here are smaller. You don't need to have a car. You know, everything is within proximity. It depends where you work, but you know, you're close to a lot of things. It would take me 10 minutes to walk to the city. It would take me 10 minutes to ride my bike to Big Market.
There's a lot of practical considerations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all of those kinds of choices, and I just think people are realising the amount of time they spend maintaining large houses and large gardens that they don't use, and people are working longer hours now also. So that's something that I don't think is a good thing either. I think that for people to lead balanced lifestyles and to have time to be creative or time to do things for themselves, they can't do that when they're working, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And it seems to be that people in the Dole can't live in Fitzroy anymore. The rents are too high.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. So they've had to move out, and then you've got these other people that, people either seem to have no work or way too much work for which they're not being paid for all the time that they're doing it, and there's an inequity there.
Yeah. So the time rich and the time poor. And the money rich and the money poor.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And what sort of positive things, changes have you seen in the area in your time here, do you think?
I think there's a recognition of the community.
Yeah.
I mean, I think to an extent around Brunswick Street, the investment in public art has been good, and the sculptures and those tiled seats and that kind of stuff. I'm not so sure about the gas lanterns myself, or I don't know whether they're real gas lanterns or fake gas lanterns, but they don't do anything to me. I'm sure too that particularly on Brunswick Street there was a policy where if somebody wanted to reinstate a shop veranda, that it had to be done in a certain style. I don't know whether it was historically researched, but there was a hell of a lot of shops there that didn't have verandas, whereas now there is a covered walkway that isn't just a hodgepodge of a whole lot of different styles, but it's coherent, and I think most people wouldn't realise that that was not original. It's only from being here and seeing it happen, I suppose, that I've noticed that.
What about in terms of just your observations of diversity in Fitzroy? Do you think it has changed from when you first moved here, like for the worse? Or?
No, I don't know, because I think it always was incredibly diverse, and I think it still is incredibly diverse. But I think we have the Housing Commission to thank for a lot of that. And, they're a big part of the community, and I think I was saying something to you the other day that one of the things that I think most fantastic about having a kid here is suddenly I've got a connection to a whole lot of other people in Fitzroy that maybe I didn't have a connection with before. And so I think there are things that I've only recently become aware of in Fitzroy, and whether they've always been there, I don't know. I mean, the fact that there's a huge Hmong population here, I didn't know before. I only learnt that a couple of years ago. Yeah. And I think that's fantastic. Yeah. So I think that's important. We've got definitely there are Kooris in the area. I don't know whether they live here or they come here, but that's good too. Yeah. And how that all works. Fitzroy Cubbies is something that's fantastic. I don't know whether it's had more of a heyday in the past or whatever, but the fact that it's still going after 20 whatever years, and litigation and whatever hasn't closed that down. Just this fantastic place where kids can just build their own stuff and just out of junk and rubbish, and I think that's an amazing thing.
Okay.
What too?
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks.